All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Real Talk. This week we have Harley and Sam.
Hello.
Nick, hi.
Hey,
Nick wasn't able to join us this week again. We really need to get him back because we need to have someone to make fun of and annoy. Um, so we had a suggestion on the channel on one of our last Real Talk videos to discuss responsibility in the context of OCD, because with a lot of themes, and generally when we are suffering from anxiety, we feel very responsible for things that happen in our life, but also things that we perhaps are doing to other people or affecting their life somehow with that. And obviously there's an element of guilt and shame associated with that. So Sam, since you weren't here last time, let's begin with you. What do you like? What do you think? Um, what kind of role does responsibility play in OCD? And you were just speaking about like responsibility in decision making. So is that something
Yeah,
you experience as well?
yeah. So it all links in with the guilt. So making tough decisions, whether that is just in your career, at work, in life, relationships, whatever. And with me, it would try and latch onto the guilt element.
Hmm.
So we all got to make tough decisions in life. So if they then might not like the decision you've made, and then you then feel guilty of how they then feel. So in regard and with that responsibility element, um, but yeah, that's it. All links into the guilt, and
Hmm.
the in regards to combating that, same as applying the unconditional acceptance. That's how I've really got to work with that. But yeah, it does latch onto responsibility quite well, quite subtly as well, without really knowing. Especially at work, just making decisions, constant decisions, and then boom,
Hmm.
responsible consequence of that. If someone might not like the decision you've made, and then just feeling that chronic guilt with it.
Actually, work is a really good context you've brought up, because I think that's common for a lot of people, especially in like high responsibility roles as well. A
Yeah,
lot of people do feel that high kind of anxiety because they feel like they are answerable to a lot of people, and they will be answerable to their higher ups since they are in that kind of role where they are in charge of so much. Also, before I move on, did you hurt your finger somewhere or have you painted your fingernail? Yeah.
no. So I did this a couple of months ago. I got it caught on the ladder in my loft. So the ladder fell down and my finger was there.
Oh
And
God.
I'm gradually waiting for the nail to fall off. It's pretty disgusting, but it's gradually getting there. But yeah,
Are
that's
you,
what that
and you
is.
can't cut it either.
I can, but I don't really know what I'm doing with it. So I'm
Okay,
kind of
okay.
waiting for it to naturally fall off, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, I think I'll lose the nail.
Probably, probably.
cool.
It looks like it. Harley, what about you? Like in any of the contexts that Sam has brought up responsibility, work or even like I know I experienced it in like even my student life at times as well. Um, the how have how has your experience been with feeling responsible for things happening around you?
I think, especially with like what Sam said about with work, I think
Mm,
for me, like you're going to feel responsible for a lot of things up in the workplace because you're hired to do a specific job, and if you feel like you don't get it done correctly or in the way you think you
mm,
should, you feel like your boss is gonna, be angry at you or fire you, or whatever, and you think, oh no, I can't make a mistake at work because this is the worst place I can make a mistake at. But it happens, it happens. Yeah, I've made many mistakes at work, and
mm.
even when I was in university, I made mistakes at work. But even not being able to get certain coursework in at a certain deadline, it happens. It's not the
Yeah.
end of the world. It happens. It's stuff like that's going to happen. You just got to try
It,
and keep on top of it. But
it
so
all
well,
links into the catastrophizing with OCD and the black and white
yeah,
thinking, the rigid thinking. So the fact if you make a mistake, um, that you can't live with yourself. But
mm,
I think more progress is made by making decisions and learning from your mistakes, and then that
mm,
then leads you to become indecisive. If you're scared of having the responsibility of making the wrong decision, it then feeds into being indecisive. So it's learning from making the mistake or making the decision, being bold, and then not writing yourself off if you've then made the wrong decision or it didn't go as planned. So that's how I've personally really combat being decisive and responsibility OCD.
Yeah, because the only other way is then to not take any action, because that's the only way that you won't make mistakes, by just not
Exactly.
doing
Yeah.
anything. And I think,
Yeah.
like, for me, as a student as well, because I was a bit of a high achiever and I was also a bit of a goody two shoes. Like, I didn't break rules and stuff like that. I think for me, whenever I have been, let's say, in class, I was scolded by a teacher or something like that. Even when I was in college or something like that, I would immediately shrink into this like childlike state almost. Like, I would feel like a 5 year old being told off. Um, because I would feel so shameful and guilty, like I have messed something up and I should be ashamed of myself, kind of thing. And then even in workplaces, even though I did not avoid making mistakes, I still went for things. But at times I would be on edge that I would be told off at any moment for not doing something correctly. And I would almost get this lump in my throat, right? And if somebody would tell me that, oh, this wasn't a great job that you did, or this wasn't something good, I would get this lump in my throat because it would be an immediate guilt response. Feeling like I had let people down. And then obviously you start also thinking that this person will never view me the same way again. I have somehow permanently tarnished my reputation by messing up this certain responsibility that I was given.
It's people pleasing, isn't it? Trying to please everyone. So they don't want to be rejected or want to be completely approved by everyone, and that's not reality.
Yeah, 100%. Harley, have you because with the kind of themes that you've had, I imagine people pleasing was part of your life as well, in terms of because you want to be accepted and validated by people and liked by people.
Yeah, 100%. And then sometimes like it wouldn't even necessarily be because of my certain themes, it'd just be because how I am. And I remember trying to please people for a very long time and like saying yes when you really want to say no and stuff like that. It's and like now I've gotten much better at that because I've realized like I'm ultimately gonna let people down at some point in my life. You can't avoid that. That's a human thing that everyone's gonna do.
And it becomes part of your personality almost, not saying
exactly.
no. Like it's like you're saying, and when you start to say no, sometimes people are then just like, what? It doesn't compute because it's like this person never said no before.
Yeah, 100%.
And also in regards to the journey, so when I look back on my OCD journey, and I remember feeling quite guilty of how I made Amy feel. So, for example, Amy's my partner, of me constantly moaning or complaining or confessing or crying. And then I'd feel bad that she would then get upset because she sees what state I'm in. So it then gets in on that angle of you being responsible for how they're feeling. Could be quite crafty, but that's how I can relate to it when I look back on my journey.
Yeah, I think for me, there was that element of shame because when I was in college, there were these, at that time, my contamination OCD was perhaps at its worst. So I would, in college, I would have these trigger zones, right? That this cafeteria is off limits. I can't sit on that table. I can't sit in that chair. I can't be in that auditorium. It would be like a minefield for me. So what I would do is whenever I was hanging out with my friends, they were, I mean, God bless them, because obviously they didn't know any better of how to help me. So they would think that they are taking care of me by listening to me. So they would accommodate my avoidance compulsions, like, oh, if you don't want to sit here, we won't, we can go somewhere else. But and while that was very heartening, it was also extremely, like, I felt very bad about it as well, because I felt like, oh God, I'm such like a shitty person that I'm the one just calling the shots. And like it felt like I was on some power trip in that sense.
Moment, with your theme moment, did you feel the guilt responsibility element that you may have contaminated someone else, or
Actually, no.
from
So I know
no?
that other people with contamination have that fear that they will contaminate things for others. But what
Yeah,
I had was similar to like the responsibility towards others I had in terms of feeling responsible for their feelings. So if someone
yeah,
was not feeling great because of something, I would feel like I made them feel that way. Or let's say that if a friend was feeling low, right? And they ask me for support, or they're like, "Can we hang out? I just need to distract myself." And then we hang out and we have a good time and everything. And by night time, I ask them, "Okay, how you're feeling?" And if they would say, "I'm still feeling low," I would take that personally, because it would be like
yeah,
I
Mm.
didn't do my job as a friend
Like I
to,
could have done more.
yeah, medicate their
Mm.
like sadness in a way, right? I couldn't take that away, so I felt absolutely responsible and like a complete failure as a
yeah,
friend
Mhm.
in towards their feelings, and that would feel so bad. And then the next day I would try to overcompensate it somehow, like I would try to like do more to be like, no, I need to make them feel okay.
yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, what I can relate to is, say, for example, making someone ill. So if I'm cooking
Mm,
chicken, for example, I remember asking people, "Are you feeling okay?" Sort of 6, 7, 8 hours after. So feeling that responsibility that because you didn't cook the chicken thoroughly, then is your fault that someone else is ill or
Mhm.
seriously ill. So yeah, that is another responsibility element that has got me on, like making people ill. Links into the harm OCD side of things, and that
mm.
your decision or your lack of act has caused someone else to have something serious.
Actually, that's a very good phrase that you use, lack of act. I mean, lack of action, or for me, it was like lack of what do you call it? I think basically like putting that pressure on myself. Why didn't I think two steps ahead? You know, I
Yeah,
should have thought, I should have preempted this. I should have been able to predict that this would happen. So
yeah,
just, and so like anytime any situation came up, I would put that pressure on myself to think 2 3 steps ahead, try to come up with different scenarios in my head and imagine what will be the consequences so that I could try to not make them happen. So it was just like playing
Mhm.
this mind game in my own head, and it just became
yeah.
very very
You,
heavy.
you can really see how why people with OCD may be reluctant to make decisions when you're so scared of the consequence. You can really see that, can't you? That because we catastrophize and is the worst thing in the world if it doesn't go as planned. I used to be really bad at making decisions, very indecisive. Or I don't mind you choose, or even just something as simple, just ordering on
Mm,
a menu, or I don't mind you choose, or up to you, just avoiding it because, and it links into that responsibility of making a bad decision.
yeah, hardly. Because I had this with my people pleasing massively and feeling responsible for their feelings, there was also this because it's a very egocentric way to think as well, right? You feel like your decisions affect the world, right?
Mhm.
So I mean, that's a very self-centered way of viewing things. So for me, it was also this. I don't like to use this term a lot, but like what is often termed as like savior complex. Like I felt like I needed to save people from their follies and from their like
Mhm.
sadness and stuff like that. So did you ever feel that with your uh people pleasing element as well?
Yeah, I always felt like I had to like be the person to get rid of people's problems, and I always felt like, and people would start being dependent on me, and then I would then focus my time more on their problems and feelings other than my own. So I would be feel worse because I'm not putting all that time and effort onto my own mental health and my own problems.
Harley, you're breaking up a bit.
I don't
Although
know
I
if that
got
was
the
just
gist
me
of
there.
what you're saying. No.
I'm happy
I saw your FaceTime.
people, don't
I
get me wrong. I'm
understood.
not saying that
Yeah, you were breaking out,
I'm,
and you were getting choppy. Now I think it's fine.
Okay. I
Okay,
completely
but I
lost where I
got
was
the
going
gist
now.
of it that you felt responsible for how they felt, and people would start depending on you as well.
Yeah, yeah. And then and like I said, like you start focusing more on making sure they're okay, other than like you're taking time. I've completely lost my train of thought. You're putting their feelings before your own, which is
Yes.
sometimes
Yes.
you've got to be selfish sometimes, and you've got to, I think, ultimately put yourself first, because you can't necessarily help people if you can't help yourself, if that makes sense.
No,
So
100% I agree with that.
yeah,
I think when I stopped if consciously people pleasing, I realized how much I had completely ignored myself. Like I had not
yeah,
thought about myself even for a second.
yeah,
Like absolutely, and it felt so strange. In fact, when I
mm,
started to think about myself, I started to feel guilty about that because I felt
yeah.
like I was doing something wrong, just thinking about myself and ignoring other people. Um, I was Oh God, yeah, this is sorry. I was just trying to remember what I wanted to ask. That's why I just got
Yes.
jumbled. So Harley, like, can you recall one of the hardest yeses that you said to someone? In the sense that you said yes, but you actually really wanted to say no, and it was just like, oh my God, what am I doing?
Uh, well, that's a good question. Um, trying to think. I think I'll have to come back to you on that one. I'll have
Okay,
to have a think about that.
take
That's
your
a tough
time.
one, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
put you on the spot. That has.
yeah, yeah,
Sam, what about you? Like any times where you felt like you couldn't say no to someone and you had to put yourself in that position of being like, no, I need to, step up.
Probably just it sounds quite vague and quite boring, but just socializing with people. And I know because I
Yes.
early on in my journey, I want to just lie in bed. I didn't want to face the world. I just felt sorry for myself. Now, just saying yes, let's go out, let's go and down the pub, let's go out for a meal, whatever. So just that was quite a big thing. Obviously, there's going to
yeah.
be bigger things, but trying to think off the top of my head, that is a main thing when
No,
I look
yeah.
back.
No, I
Because
can
it's
relate
just
to
so
that
easy
100%.
to fall into the comfort trap. Just can I touch on a few things else that how
Go ahead. Yeah,
responsibility
yeah.
gets in
Yeah,
with
yeah.
with me? I've been thinking, as you've been talking, I've been thinking about it. Financial decisions. So
Oh,
obviously sometimes risks that are needed, or just do I spend this, and then responsibility of that you may have lost money, you may have wasted money, or just even right. Put it this way: so someone might owe you money, or someone might have borrowed money off you. Then asking for that back, I would then feel guilty
yes,
for
yes.
asking for my own money back,
Mm,
and that's just ridiculous. I remember feeling chronically guilty. I didn't get to a point where I was going to say, you know what, keep not quite how it works, just based on because I felt so guilty asking.
Yeah.
Also, I just
mhm.
wanted to touch on a moment. So helping others. So I put a few posts on the Facebook group, and if someone messages me, it can sort of latch onto the responsibility of getting someone better, or if someone's not. I'm sure you can relate to that moment. If you take responsibility of them getting better from OCD, so it can get in on that, and you obviously can only do what you can do, but
Yeah.
taking responsibility for their recovery journey.
I think financially that's a really good, because that's something I struggled with for a long time. Even like when the fee bill would come for my school, right? I had to hand that over to my parents. That okay, for the next term, this is the fee bill, and I would delay that till the end because I would feel like, because I felt like I was draining my parents' finances, even though paying for school is what they're supposed to do, obviously, but it felt like I was committing such a
Yeah,
crime, and it was like they're wasting their finances on me. They shouldn't have to spend this much on me and stuff like that. Let's
yeah,
rejoin the link. So I think like with finances also, the other aspect for me is just someone who I feel like getting into adulthood, making my own income, it's not just about. So here's the other important bit with responsibility. In the past, obviously, I've had these themes about feeling responsible for other people's feelings and them feeling good or not good and stuff like that. But then I have also felt a huge responsibility towards myself. It's almost like I don't want to disappoint myself, because
Mhm.
it's like I'm viewing myself from the outside in. And like with having someone who has started earning in the last few years, I think I felt like if I make a bad financial decision, and if I'm not used to, because obviously I'm not used to, buying things for myself, making purchases, even like getting really good headphones for the first time, because I had never got them myself. They seemed like something a bit expensive. It
Mhm.
was like, am I making the right decision? Will I regret this? Am I
Yeah.
doing good to myself? So
Mm.
it's that responsibility element towards yourself, and it can come with like finances, and it can even come with like um even something that I used to have really badly when I was younger was ordering something on the menu at a restaurant, because it would be like, if I want to make sure that I order the right thing, otherwise I will be responsible for my evening going terribly because I'm having something I don't like or something that's going to make me nauseous, because that was a
Mm.
Mhm.
massive fear for me. So it was like having this like high level of duty towards myself, that I need to do good by myself as well. And that just like messed up. And that's where the guilt kind of overlapped. Then, okay, I think I'm doing um, good towards myself by, let's say, starting to say no to people. But then I'm also making them feel terrible by saying no. So then who do I feel guilty about? Towards myself or towards them? And it would be just layers of guilt in different ways, and that became a bit tough to navigate at the time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I find
um
also not
Go
so,
ahead.
so, for example, not following the crowd, and that's quite a big
Yeah.
thing. Because it's easy just to follow the crowd, fall into comfort. Whereas if you start, I don't know, shaping your own perspectives, obviously you feel quite alone when you're being quite rational, and that can be
Mm.
linking into the responsibility side of things and the um, sort of making your own mind up for yourself. And then I don't know, it all sort of links into the guilt feeling, doesn't it? Guilt feeling with
Yeah.
responsibility of making your own decision and not just making a decision because everyone else thinks the same thing.
Yeah. And Hardy, we were just speaking to each other just before the call, where you were also talking about like, just thinking about your future career, what paths you may want to go toward and stuff like that. So just
Yeah.
because we're also discussing like similar things, just out of curiosity, do you feel that kind of um guilt or like responsibility element, that I need to make sure I make the right decision for myself or do something that I do not regret?
Uh, I mean, I used to, not necessarily much now. I
Mm-hmm.
remember I knew there was someone that I knew who felt like a complete failure because they didn't have certain things done at a certain age. And that's such a bad mindset to have because they were like, oh, I want to have a career at this age. I want to get married at this age. And like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. There's no rule that says you have to have this at this age or this at a certain time.
Mm,
So, and I used to be like that myself when I was younger, whereas now I just look and think we're all learning and growing. We're all on our own journeys, you know what I mean, of life. So it doesn't really matter how long it takes to get at a certain place or a certain point in your life. It really does not matter. But yeah, I think over time I've just realized that, like I said, you're all on your own journey, however long it takes. Like even with recovery, some people are
mm.
going to take longer to recover than others. Everyone's different, and that's just how we are. We're all different, and yeah, I think I've gone a bit off topic there, but
Yeah, no, no, no,
Yeah,
no. I think
yeah,
we're
very
at the
good point.
perfect point. No, no, we're at the perfect point because we can because this is something we were just touching upon as well. So, Sam, what you said about like fear as well, right? Because then the responsibility element also comes into like the recovery work, because at times people's fears and OCD latch onto recovery itself. Am I doing recovery right? I need to make sure that I'm doing recovery right, because if I don't, if I make the wrong decision, if I make a mistake, if I do exposures the wrong way, if I dispute the wrong way, if I don't read the books in order, I'm going to mess up my recovery process. And that's again the responsibility element towards yourself. Like you feel like your mental health is in your charge, which is true, but then it hypes that up and it's like, oh, if I'm triggered, then it's going to be my fault. If I stay stuck, that's going to be my fault. So I'm scared of making any decision regarding recovery, because otherwise it's a fear element that I'm going to stay stuck forever. I'm going to do something so bad to my brain that I won't be able to get out of it.
It's also the responsibility for the lost years. So when you look back, when you made some progress and you look back at the times you were stuck, so you might have done something that was amazing. You might have been on holiday, or you might have been at a really special event, and you look back now and gone, "Oh shit, I wish I wasn't so stuck." So is that responsibility and the guilt with how you feel, or you're suffering with OCD, and that you can feel guilty for having OCD, if that makes any sense?
Yeah.
No,
Looking back,
100%.
I wish I enjoyed that more, and I wish I wasn't stuck there, which obviously doesn't make any sense, but it can be responsibility for the lost years, especially with other people as well. So maybe someone may have passed away and you didn't spend enough time with them because you felt quite stuck, or you didn't make any effort to go and see them when you could have done. So we can get him on that element.
And even I think even just outside of the OCD lens as well, like I know that I have like countless times beaten myself up so badly over like making some mistakes in the past, and I would hold myself responsible for those in a really bad way, because obviously the 25-year-old me was beating up the 14-year-old me, being like, you should have known better. Or how could I have known better? I hadn't experienced any life. The only way I could have known better is by experiencing those things, which I did. So now I know better. But I was beating myself up in my 20s, especially to my young teenage self, or even before my teenage years. I was beating myself up for certain things even before my teenage years, just being like, how could you be so stupid, how could you be so like unsensible or idiotic, you should have known better, you should have done that.
But that's the thing though, like you have to make mistakes anyway. You have to make mistakes, otherwise if you don't, then you don't.
That's the biggest learning point, isn't it? When you make mistakes.
So if you go through life not making a mistake,
then there's no point. If you don't make mistakes in life, there's really no point.
If you don't make a mistake, then
well, that's not life, is it? You can't. No one's perfect, so it just doesn't make any sense. But I remember looking back and beating myself up, like you say, man, beating myself up over the head, of being quite hesitant towards recovery work when I was quite new on the journey. But looking back now, it's like, well, what can I do? I can't go back in time and change anything.
Exactly.
Especially with spending money, so I might have wasted money and beating yourself up constantly. Well, it's gone now. The moment's gone. The money's gone. All you can do is look forward, and you can't change anything when you look back. It links to anything with real event, false memory OCD. It's all about your perspective of the event or of the situation. You can't go back in time and change stuff.
Exactly. And I think like that kind of responsibility element then that's something that can really make people linger and just really stay stuck in the past for like not having done any better. And there are people who still come in for calls or even in the WhatsApp group who are still like beating themselves up for things that have happened like maybe 10 years ago, literally something 10 years ago, but they hold themselves responsible to this state that because it was because of me, I should have like changed things or like not done this to somebody else and stuff like that. And it's just so I mean, I find it quite remarkable um in an unironic way that, like, how can, like, this disorder is so stubborn, literally so stubborn,
Mm.
that it can make you think about the same thing for so many years with the same kind of intensity. So, like, something that
Yeah.
happened 10 years ago is so fresh in your mind, because for people it literally just happened yesterday. Like, if you keep thinking of the same thing for 10 years, for
Mm.
you haven't moved on in time, so for you it just happened a day before. So
Yeah.
that's how
Yeah.
fresh it is in your brain.
I remember thinking
Mm.
with relevant and false memory OCD that, oh, I'm still stuck. How is that still stuck in my mind? Oh, and I'll be like a countdown of, oh, that's been 6 months now, or that's been a year now. It's 2 years and I'm still thinking of it. So I, like
Mm.
you said, I remember it could be 10 years ago, but it feels so fresh in your memory because you've been replaying it, because you've been analyzing it. It feels like yesterday.
So, Sam, if I ask you that, let's say you were to have a setback tomorrow, or like a bit of a relapse tomorrow. I hope it
Bring
doesn't,
it
but
on.
just saying, fingers
Bring
crossed,
it on.
touch wood. Um, but like, how would you feel? Just thinking about it, imagining it, what do you feel?
Having the what? So with anything, it can be a setback with a new theme or a reoccurring theme. Do you mean, or
Yeah,
it could just be
I mean,
anything?
either anything, like new theme or like an old theme coming back. Like, is that,
Like
is it something
probably.
that really scares you still, or do you feel, I don't know,
So,
more?
for example, I've been on holiday for 2 weeks now. Before that holiday, it would be the fear of developing a new theme on holiday and not
Mm,
being able to cope when I was away, and maybe feeling a bit anxious. But then it's a good opportunity for me to show myself that is anxiety. What anxiety is not going to kill me, and just really bring it on for the ride. And I tend to push myself more when I'm feeling anxious or feeling slightly hesitant towards things to really prove myself with fear of fear that it doesn't matter how I feel, I can still aim towards my goals, I can still enjoy myself. So I try and use setbacks or when I'm not feeling as great to really show myself that it makes no difference and not fearing the sensations coming back.
Mhm.
Harley, what about you? Because I, like, recently you've had a bit of a fluctuation in anxiety
Yeah.
levels. So is it something that's you've been able to draw any lessons from yet, or do you think you're still, like, figuring things out in terms of learning about fear or relapsing?
I'm definitely still learning more about fear and getting comfortable with relapsing and stuff. But
Mm.
I said to Sam before this call as well, that I'm just taking each day as it comes with it, and I've got to like stop trying to look for quick fixes because that's not going to come anytime soon. So it's just a learning process for me. All of this, and it's not like I don't know any of the tools or anything. It's like I know the tools, I know exactly what I need to do. It's just putting it into practice. That's my thing that I always like fall back on. I always try and like just get back on the horse and just yeah, just take each day as it comes.
It's like you say,
So
Holly, it's not like you'd watch one video or read one book and expect it to
yeah,
feel
Mm.
completely better. But you can
yeah,
see why people do it because if you're not feeling great, you just want that quick relief, don't you?
yeah,
But
Yeah.
it's
exactly.
important that it then takes time and just gradually chipping away
And
at
this
your
is what
beliefs.
I
It's not,
always
yeah.
this is what I always say to people as well. Like, if you have, let's say you have cut out compulsions, you are living a life of non-avoidance, you are generally feeling really great, anxiety levels are down, you are not really afraid of discomfort, and you've made those, like, and life structure is good overall, you've made those changes in your life. It still takes a significant period of time of doing that consistently for a bit of a stretched out period of time for that to really settle into your brain as a
Hmm.
second nature thing, where you maybe
Yeah.
then don't have to stay like very on top of things as much anymore. So you have to sustain, because the brain again is like is very keen on being like, I want to go back to my old behaviors. So for it to really settle into like a new way of thinking and behaving, you have to like continue doing that over like a sustained period of time for it to truly adopt that new kind of lifestyle. I think if I think about a like relapse tomorrow, I don't know. I genuinely don't care. Like, I don't know. It doesn't really terrify me. It doesn't, I mean, sure, I know it won't be that great, but uh, for some reason, it doesn't faze me. And, it's the opposite thing. I mean, because obviously I mean, people often misconstrue acceptance as agreement or acceptance as complacency or acceptance as wanting something. But
Yeah.
because I mean, so with that logic, people might think that, oh, if you are becoming accepting of a relapse, does that mean that I'm going to start doing compulsions tonight,
Mm.
right? But it's the opposite effect of it. Because I'm not afraid of relapsing, I don't feel the need to do any compulsions. Because if I was afraid of relapsing, I might have like the urge to do compulsions tonight so that I can prevent the relapse from happening, which is then a self-contradictory thing because compulsions is what can lead me to the relapse itself. So it's a strange thing to sometimes like explain or even experience yourself. Because I don't have the fear of relapsing, I
Yeah,
don't feel the need to run away from any kind of
yeah,
discomfort and stuff like that.
yeah. I mean, what I was saying before we were recording this video is not that you do some disputing and then that's it. Don't look at recovery work for about a year. I'm not saying that. Is I actively work on it each day. So key thing is not avoiding stuff that might cause a bit of discomfort or yeah, and just gradually working on that, changing your perspective each day, not firmly sitting down. Well, I don't do anymore, but I used to when I first started off, but not firmly sitting down every day as soon as I get in from work. How can I change this? How can I change that? I'm not on that point. I'm actively working on it each day. How can I push myself? How can I gradually change my beliefs
Yeah.
and perspective over time, knowing that it takes time? It's not just boom, get all done today, so I'm all right tomorrow. That's the main mindset shift that I've done.
Yeah, no, I think, and even for me as well, now having like, I feel like, especially in like recent months, I feel like I have now quite come into my own as a person. And like, I feel really great about life. And like Rob says in like his videos about what recovery feels like and stuff like that, I feel quite excited about life. I know I can go forward and like Sam, you said, it's all for me. I think especially recent months of my life have been about how can I grow myself, in every aspect as a person, as like as a working professional, as someone. Do I want to, let's say, like start like a side venture or something because I love art related stuff. So I was thinking maybe I could do something with that. Like there's so many things that those ideas also start coming to you because you then don't become so averse to taking risks or making any decisions like you do when you are chronically suffering, because also the responsibility element is also not as hyped up in an irrational way. Like I do feel responsible, obviously I want to make responsible decisions, but let's say if I invest a little bit of money into saying I want to start a venture of like selling art, right, something like that, um I would and if that doesn't work out, I wouldn't feel like I've like really messed up my finances or
Yeah,
messed up my
yeah.
career or anything. I would feel okay
I,
because I would take stock of what I did. I would learn from those mistakes and see how I can do it better in the future.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the clarity in your thinking, isn't it? So my thinking
100%.
was so clouded and brain fog, and I couldn't think straight. So now there's that clarity in my thinking. And Rob talks about it a lot in his videos, which I love, and is overcoming obstacles in life. So what's the next obstacle? How can I get better? How can I overcome that? How can I try and achieve my goals and get over this obstacle? And sort of look forward to, I don't know, pushing myself and having a bit of
Mm.
discomfort. Whereas
Mhm.
years ago, I would have dreaded that. I didn't want to get over any obstacle, let alone I didn't want to
Yeah.
even put in any recovery work, let alone try and push myself in all parts of life.
Yeah.
Mm.
Things that make me nervous are also things that now I sometimes see as exciting, or like if I'm feeling nervous about something, it's like, oh, I might be excited about this, and maybe I can overcome this and conquer this like thing. So I
Mm.
don't know, it's just a strange thing. I mean, as before, the
Yeah.
nerves would be like, oh my God, this is like the worst feeling. But now nerves it's the same feeling, but it's like, oh, I mean, this is kind of exciting. Maybe I can, see how I can push myself. It's an
Yeah,
opportunity.
like public speaking, I find. So if I'm speaking to a lot of people, say at work, I used to dread that. Now I'd be like, obviously I'm still get quite nervous at it, but I see it as an
Mhm.
opportunity to develop myself. And that's what I
Yeah.
mean by that clarity in your thinking. You see it as an opportunity rather than just dreading it.
Yeah.
The more you
How
do
do
it, the more comfortable you get as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It's a muscle you have to practice
Yeah.
and strengthen. Hardy, do you like, just speaking of work as well? So you have like night shifts that you do. Do you have a lot of
Yeah.
like colleagues over there at that time as well, or is it just you by yourself mostly?
So yeah, there's other people in the building as well, but we all we all do our own thing. We get assigned to a certain task, and then we just get left to do it. It's pretty easy job. It's not difficult at all. I've
Okay.
adjusted to it pretty well. So
Okay.
It's great.
Okay.
It's great that you're back working again, isn't it, Harley?
yeah,
Didn't
100%.
you have a break from working? So I think that's in regards to
Yeah, it's
life,
just
I think that's crucial, isn't it?
yeah, it was just like constantly looking for jobs, and getting rejected and having to deal with the rejection, then finally getting a job, and yeah, it feels good.
How are
All
you?
experiences that
How are you with public speaking?
Oh, probably not not the greatest. I'm not
Uh-huh.
gonna lie. Yeah, that's something I have to work on, but
If you
I haven't
had
really.
to
But
address a room of like 10 people, would that make you nervous?
uh, I'd definitely be nervous. I'd probably be able to do it, but yeah, I'd definitely be anxious and nervous. But
Okay.
yeah,
Sam, were you about to say something?
I was gonna say it depends if I know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
yeah,
If you're confident in speaking, then it's great. But if you're sort of blabbing, that's when it's quite difficult.
yeah, yeah.
I think I've always like been good at public speaking in a way. And even if I'm addressing a room of like 10, 15 people, like, and maybe I also get this from performing a lot since I was young, like because I used to do a lot of like short plays in school, and I've done like quite a lot of theater as well. I think what that has helped me learn is how to work a crowd. Like if there are like
Mhm.
even 10 people or 20 people in front of you, how can you like, make them all engaged, and
Yeah,
what things to say and how to say them to, get attention and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't know.
Mine would be all fear of what they think of you, or constantly analysing, or do they think this, or have I said that wrong, or am I going to
yeah,
stutter here? Am I going to say the wrong word?
Mm,
So
mm,
yeah, just constantly thinking of what their opinion is, and when you
yeah.
turn to when you with your beliefs, it's not the end of the world, or you start, then you might mess up, and it's not
Mm,
really
mm,
carry on. But yeah, that is the
yeah,
main fear of thinking what or worrying about what other people think of you.
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Um, okay, so any last points that you guys want to touch on before we end this? Or do you think we've covered
Uh,
pretty much
How long
the
is this? How long is this? How long are we up to?
I don't know. I think we've definitely spoken more than 30 minutes. I think we've done like
yeah.
40, 45.
Yeah, well, people will be getting bored by now.
Yeah,
They haven't
probably.
switched off already.
Guys, no, don't be bored. Okay. All right. Thank you for being here. I think this was a really good, productive discussion. We were able to
Mm,
like touch on like a lot of different elements under responsibility. So whoever
yeah.
requested this, I hope you find this helpful. If any other people have any recommendations, please pop them below in the comments. We would love to cover that in the next real talk.
Yeah,
So
suggestions would be brilliant, wouldn't it? So we can
yeah,
all, because then
Mm,
we go off on one as
yeah.
well. So we'll start off on it, and then someone says something, and then we go off on another story or how it relates to OCD. So
exactly.
yeah, any
Yeah.
Yeah,
topic, brilliant.
yeah. All right. Thank you, Harley. Thank you, Sam. Thank you,
Thank
You're
you.
Momin.
welcome.
All right, guys. See you. Bye.
Yeah, bye
Take care,
bye.
guys. Bye.